How does that work, Dana? Because I see a lot of people, like, people always bring up the fighter pay with the UFC, but what's, like, isn't Logan complaining right now that he didn't get his checks from Floyd? Is that like a boxing issue versus
you
a boxing thing?
You don't ever hear that coming out.
To this day,
you hear a guy going,
now,
I want to make $30 million, I didn't get paid enough. You don't ever hear guys going, yeah, they didn't pay me yet, ever.
Is that like a boxing issue?
Well, here's what happens when you go in and you do these fights, and you make them. And Hunter, correct me if I'm wrong. You do these fights that are exhibitions or whatever. The commission isn't overseeing it. So let's say I did a fight with Mike. I got Mike fighting, Francis or something. The athletic commission gets the money up front, so they pay the fighters.
Either way, the last thing you nearly need in your life is for things to go wrong, and you were showing off how you were a big shot financially when you didn't have to, really. You didn't have to do that. And now you have this egg on your face, and things are falling apart. And now people are wondering, did you get screwed, or was it your own financial ignorance?
Now, he's accused in multiple lawsuits, all right, of owing millions for luxury watches, gold, and rent as well on the apartment that we just talked about, okay? And so he's got about, I counted about 6 lawsuits.
Then Dana White enters the conversation with blunt criticism aimed directly at Floyd Mayweather Jr. He questions why Floyd would even pursue another fight with Manny Pacquiao at this stage, suggesting the motivation has less to do with legacy and more to do with money. Dana calls the entire situation sad, openly wondering what Floyd's financial situation must look like if he feels the need to return for another massive payday. And comments like that instantly add even more pressure to an already explosive story. Because now the debate isn't only about whether the fight happens, it's about why it's happening at all. Is this truly unfinished business between two legends, or a desperate chase for one last blockbuster check?
Do what they got to do and say what they got to say to try to, get in there and make money. It's not even going to be funny. It's going to be bad.
And then the controversy takes another unexpected turn when Logan Paul publicly claims that Floyd Mayweather Jr. still owes him money from their exhibition fight. The accusation instantly reignites questions surrounding Floyd's financial situation, especially with rumors of unpaid obligations and ongoing money disputes already circulating around him. Because when claims like this keep surfacing from different directions, people start wondering if there's a deeper problem behind the scenes. And suddenly, the conversation shifts away from just boxing. It becomes about money, pressure, and whether one of the sport's richest stars is facing challenges nobody expected to see publicly.
Ended up doing the fight in the States with a different company. That is the company that put on the fight. That is the company that paid me. But he sold our fight with my name and likeness to someone else in Dubai for $10 million cash. It's our fight, bro. Our deal was 15%. He smoked me. So I got 15% of it. 15% of $10 million is $1.5 million. Mm-hmm. That company that paid him that money is suing him. I actually don't know the status on that lawsuit. I should check in because he still owes me money, but he has a bunch of legal trouble at the moment. That I don't think I'm ever getting the money.
He just sold his house in Vegas.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I think he's facing a bunch.
Rinsed on that house. He started at $14 million. He custom built the house, by the way, in like 2006.
Yeah.
Started at 14, reduced to 12,
yeah.
10, 8 came on the market,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of house for...
Dana White also pointed out that Floyd Mayweather Jr. made enormous amounts of money throughout his legendary career, with the biggest payday reportedly coming from his massive crossover fight against Conor McGregor. That event became one of the most talked-about spectacles in combat sports history, generating unbelievable revenue and turning Floyd's fortune into something almost untouchable. Which is exactly why the current financial rumors surrounding him feel so shocking to many people. Because when someone who earned that level of money is suddenly surrounded by controversy, unpaid obligation claims, and non-stop questions about finances, the story becomes impossible for fans to ignore.
The biggest fights you've ever had?
Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, which ironically is a boxing event, but it's the biggest combat sports fight ever.
What did that gross?
It did 4.4 or 4.5 million buys at $100 a buy.
Yeah. So that worked out okay.
According to Wade Plemons, the deeper issue may trace back years earlier. He claims Floyd Mayweather Jr. earned unbelievable wealth during his prime, but struggled with managing that fortune properly behind the scenes. And once the peak years of his career started fading, Wade believes Floyd kept returning to boxing, not necessarily for legacy, but to recover money through high-profile exhibition fights and massive appearances. If true, it paints a very different picture of the undefeated legend the world has always seen. Because suddenly, every comeback, every exhibition, and every new controversy starts looking less like entertainment, and more like a cycle Floyd may not be able to walk away from.
Way back, again 5 years ago now, but that was like the initial rumblings around that fight. And what Floyd did was use Mayweather Promotions to bring them this fight and say, if you'll front us this money, we'll put this fight here. They fronted him the money. He took the money, had the fight at the Hard Rock in Miami with Fanmio instead. That was the company that put it on, Fanmio. And Logan saw none of that front end 10 mil, and the people that paid Floyd the 10 mil never saw a dime back. It's nasty work what he did. But this has been like one of Floyd's MOs, is that he leverages his fight name or his quote-unquote assets, and which is what, a lot of wealthy people do. They leverage their assets to take out bigger loans or, whatever. But Floyd does it in such a reckless way that no one ever sees return on it. He just takes money. It isn't a loan. He's stealing.
Then Joe Rogan adds even more fuel to the growing speculation surrounding Floyd Mayweather Jr. According to Rogan, Floyd lived with the mindset that the money would never stop coming, spending enormous amounts on luxury, cars, jewelry, travel, and a lifestyle built around constant excess. He suggests Mayweather treated his fortune like an endless river of cash, never slowing down even after the biggest years of his career had passed. And if that lifestyle continued while the income started changing, Rogan believes it could explain why financial pressure may now be creeping into the picture. Because for someone who once looked untouchable, the idea that money problems could force repeated returns to the spotlight makes the entire story feel far more complicated than anyone imagined.
Crazy. So you buy a watch and a car, you're down 10. That's nuts. That's nuts.
Crazy.
I remember Iran Barkley was talking about that. Iran Barkley, when he was in his prime, was hanging out with all these professional athletes, and everybody was getting diamond-crusted chains and this and that, and he was keeping up with these people. Like, you got to keep up with the Joneses. And he just found himself like draining all of his money. He was talking about it like that was the biggest detriment to him being able to save any money.
They trying to keep up.
Yeah, which I thought was funny when I was listening to this conversation with Chad Ochocinco. He was talking about it. He was like,
his jewelry fake.
Yeah, he was wearing fake jewelry.
But who would know?
What's that?
Who would know?
No
Chad
one know.
Ochocinco.
Exactly.
It's
Fake
like when
jewelry,
they look at him, like
flying economy. He was sleeping at the stadium.
Teddy Atlas believes part of the public reaction toward Floyd Mayweather Jr. comes from the image Floyd spent years building around himself. According to Atlas, Floyd constantly showcased luxury, wealth, and excess in a way that made many people feel distant from him rather than connected to him. Private jets, mountains of cash, expensive jewelry, it became part of his identity. And because that image was pushed so heavily for so long, Teddy says some people now feel a strange sense of satisfaction watching reports of struggles and controversy surrounding him. Not necessarily because they hate Floyd, but because they see it as the collapse of an untouchable lifestyle that once seemed impossible to crack. And that's what makes this moment feel so different, because for the first time in years, the undefeated legend no longer looks completely untouchable in the eyes of the public.
Taking shots at a great fighter, Mayweather. Probably the same people that were, applauding him and saying how great he was at one point, and now they're taking shots at him like they're almost, like they get pleasure out of seeing a great fall, potentially.
You're right.
Fall. Oh yeah, like you said, he was Mayweather, Money Mayweather, and now he's suing because he went through his money, he blew his money, whatever. Look, I don't know what the truth is fully in there. I know Steven Espinoza was named. He ran Showtime at the time. He was named him. I never was a fan of Espinoza. Again, I'm not afraid to say and not mince my words when I feel a certain way. And I've taken arrows for it, and of course I've also taken some praise for it. That people say, hey, Teddy's going to say what he feels. I was never a fan of him. I never thought he was a man that kept his word. I never thought he really did a great job over at Showtime. I mean, they put some good fights on because the fights were available because the landscape made it.
Dan Rafael says the growing financial concerns surrounding Floyd Mayweather Jr. shouldn't really shock anyone who closely followed his career over the years. In Dan's view, the warning signs were always there, hidden in plain sight through the lifestyle Floyd proudly displayed to the world. From private jets and luxury mansions to exotic vacations, designer fashion, and fleets of expensive cars, Mayweather built an image completely centered around wealth and excess. And these weren't rare glimpses into luxury. They became a non-stop part of his public identity. Floyd didn't just enjoy being rich, he made sure the world constantly saw it. According to Rafael, when someone spends years living at that level without slowing down, questions about long-term financial pressure eventually become unavoidable. And now, with rumors, controversies, and money disputes surrounding him more than ever, many people are starting to wonder if the lifestyle that once made Floyd look untouchable may also be the very thing that created the pressure closing in around him today.
I'll contact my people again later, and hopefully I can get it this afternoon to actually read the specifics of the suit and what the allegations are. But the fact that Floyd would encounter some financial issues post his boxing career is not in any way a surprise to me. When you see the types of things that, when if you believe anything that he puts on his social media, the travel that he does, the places he goes, and the amount of entourage he has, I mean, that's like a money pit. I mean, whether you're flying on private jets or you're staying at first class hotels, or you're buying expensive jewelry and cars and bags and you name it. I mean, it's all good when you're making those gigantic paydays and they're coming in, a couple times a year. You're making 40 million here and 25 million there, or even more, 100 million plus, when he fought the big mega fights with guys like Conor McGregor and Manny Pacquiao. But when that stops, that money doesn't,
While that lifestyle helped Floyd Mayweather Jr. create an image of total success and untouchable dominance, Dan Rafael believes it also quietly raised serious questions about long-term financial stability. According to Rafael, maintaining a life built around non-stop luxury requires more than massive earnings. It requires discipline, planning, and smart financial management, especially after retirement when the steady flow of career income naturally slows down. Because in the end, the real issue is never just how much money someone makes. It's how well they protect it once the spotlight begins to fade. And now, with ongoing reports of financial pressure and Floyd's continued return to exhibition fights, many people feel those earlier concerns are starting to look more real than ever. What once appeared to be limitless wealth and absolute freedom now serves as a reminder that even the biggest fortunes can become fragile without careful decisions behind the scenes. And that may be the most unexpected twist of all, because outside the ring, discipline can matter just as much as it does inside it.
About the 340 million, it just didn't ring true to me, because Al Heyman, who is not named in the suit, but apparently is supposedly part of this problem, whatever. But I mean, I've known Al Heyman and covered Al Heyman's fighters and his business since the day he stepped in boxing in like 2002 with Vernon Forrest. And all that time, and literally in terms of the PBC, a couple hundred fighters that he's dealt with, maybe not personally, but that his team is and his company. To a fighter, you never hear anybody, even when they're retired and they're not with Al anymore, nobody talks bad about him. In fact, if you ask most fighters, they'll tell you how good to them that he has been, that type of money that they've helped him make, and the person that he's paid and the guy.
Floyd Mayweather Jr. once built his entire image around luxury, power, and the idea that money would never stop flowing. From stacks of cash to private jets and multi-million-dollar lifestyles, he presented himself as untouchable financially, as if success would last forever. But according to the host of Boxing Ego, recent developments are painting a completely different picture behind the scenes. The analyst points to what appears to be a shocking financial downturn, highlighted by reported legal action Floyd has allegedly taken against major business associates tied to his career. And that's what makes this situation so surprising. Because for years, Floyd maintained strong relationships with powerful names like Steven Espinoza and networks such that helped generate enormous paydays and global exposure throughout his reign at the top of boxing. But now, reports surrounding a massive $340 million lawsuit claim that huge amounts of money were never properly paid. If true, it would completely change how people view the empire Floyd spent decades building. Because suddenly, the man who once looked financially unstoppable may now be fighting a battle far more complicated than anything he faced inside the ring.
We are going to go through in this video Now, I've been covering boxing for double-digit years. Allow me to take you through it. A simple Google search shows Floyd Mayweather. You type in his name, you're going to see some fight photos and whatnot. But the top stories, and there's multiple stories, and we're going to take a look at some of them. But as mentioned, Business Insider is now reporting what you see on the screen, that Floyd Mayweather is being accused in lawsuits of owing millions of dollars for luxury watches, gold, and rent on palatial apartment, right? The bullet points. Floyd was sued for allegedly failing to pay.
This entire situation has started raising much bigger questions about financial management, contract transparency, and the hidden business side of professional boxing. Because the contrast feels almost unbelievable. For years, Floyd Mayweather Jr. projected an image of absolute financial control. Someone who always stayed ahead, always won, and always had unlimited wealth at his fingertips. But now, with lawsuits, disputes, and growing questions surrounding business relationships, that image suddenly looks far more complicated than people once imagined. And that's why the story has captured so much attention. It's not just about money anymore. It's about how quickly the picture behind the spotlight can change when contracts, partnerships, and long-term planning start falling into uncertainty. Because in boxing, success inside the ring doesn't always guarantee stability outside of it. And sometimes the toughest battles begin only after the cheering stops.
Represents the $500K, $500,000 in arrears plus late fees minus a deposit that Mayweather paid at the start of the lease and the $100,000 catch-up payment. So they deducted what he did submit when he was made aware of this, the $100K, and I guess a deposit. So the remaining balance is that. An attorney for Mayweather did not provide a comment by deadline. He has not responded to the lawsuit in court. In a separate legal matter, so we've already went over one with this luxury condo in Manhattan, right? But a separate legal matter, a Miami jeweler sued Floyd Mayweather last month, alleging the boxer owes more than $1 million for jewelry that he took but never paid for.
Coach Malachi believes the situation surrounding Floyd Mayweather Jr. has become far more complicated than most fans realize. According to him, Floyd is currently caught in a massive legal dispute involving claims that nearly $340 million was either mishandled or lost through business dealings connected to Steven Espinoza and... But what makes the case even more interesting, Malachi says, is the structure of the contracts themselves. He suggests that certain agreements may have been written in a way that protected key figures from legal responsibility, particularly Al Heyman. In his view, if those contract terms are exactly as reported, it would explain why Heyman reportedly isn't included in the lawsuit at all. And that opens the door to a much bigger conversation about how complicated boxing business deals can become behind closed doors. But Malachi also argues that contracts alone aren't the full story. He points to Floyd's long-time reputation for heavy spending, luxury living, and high-stakes gambling, suggesting that personal financial habits may have added even more pressure over time. So even while claims of unpaid earnings continue making headlines, questions about money management still remain impossible to ignore. And that's what makes the entire situation feel so layered, because according to this perspective, the controversy isn't being driven by just one problem, but by a collision of business structures, financial decisions, and a lifestyle built around excess that may now be catching up with one of boxing's biggest icons.
Guess what? Al Heyman is clear. And now it explains why Floyd don't have Al Heyman in the lawsuit. He can't sue him. Come on, man. Al covered his tracks. Now, he may be getting sued by big corporations, stuff like that, but he's not being sued by any fighter. They can't sue him. You get what I'm saying? Floyd Mayweather messed up. And adds insult to injury, Floyd Mayweather has a gambling problem and he spends a lot of money. He loves to spend money. So whatever he have that's in his possession, he's spending that and blowing that on top of the $340 million that he said that's owed to him. Meaning that he never really got paid from the Manny Pacquiao and Conor McGregor fight. Come on, man. Al Heyman got power of attorney. You dig? And he covered his tracks. So shout out to the brother man, Al Heyman. You did a good job.
Tasha K explains that even when someone like Floyd Mayweather Jr. appears unbelievably wealthy to the public, the reality behind the scenes can be far more complicated. Massive earnings and luxury lifestyles don't always equal true financial security, especially when hidden obligations, ongoing business deals, unpaid balances, and delayed payments are quietly stacking up out of public view. According to Tasha K., those unseen pressures can slowly build over time and eventually trap even the most successful people in difficult situations. And in Floyd's case, she suggests part of the problem may have come from being too focused on spending and maintaining the image of endless wealth, rather than protecting it long-term. Because when the spotlight constantly rewards excess, it becomes easy to ignore the pressure growing underneath it all. And that's the unsettling part of this story. What once looked like total financial freedom may actually have been hiding a much more fragile reality the public never saw coming.
You've been praising him and worshiping him. Continue to praise him and worship him then. You get what I'm saying? You dig? True. And another thing, let's thank Al Heyman.
Well, you know, I guess I gotta be like everybody else and thank Al Heyman.
That's what y'all been doing. You pro Al Heyman and PBC YouTube channels, and a lot of you fan bases online. That's what you've been doing. Continue to praise him then. Al is a smart businessman. He finessed the game. Let's give Al Heyman a round of applause. Good job, Al. You did a good job. And this is a lesson to all of those out there, you know, who think because you signed with the black man that you will not be taken advantage of and the white man is the evil devil. If that's your position, there ain't nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with however you feel either way. But just understand, when someone wants to steal from you, they don't recognize.
Tasha K. believes one of the biggest dangers of wealth is how easy it becomes to spend freely while serious responsibilities quietly build in the background. And in the case of Floyd Mayweather Jr., she says the non-stop image of luxury can create the illusion that the money will never run out. Private jets, expensive jewelry, gambling, luxury homes, exotic vacations, it all projects unlimited financial power to the public. But behind that image, there can also be enormous outgoing costs, investments, business commitments, and financial obligations that demand constant cash flow to maintain. And once income slows down or becomes less consistent, those hidden pressures can suddenly become impossible to ignore. According to Tasha K., real wealth isn't just about how much money someone earns at their peak, it's about how well that money is managed over time. Because without discipline and long-term planning, even massive fortunes can quietly begin slipping away. And that's what makes this story feel so striking. What once looked like endless success and total control may actually reveal how financial overextension can happen silently in the background, turning a life of luxury into a life filled with growing pressure the public never fully sees.
Too distracted, spending. And when you see somebody like Floyd Mayweather, that's the oldest trick in the book, y'all. Y'all know. When y'all see somebody flogging money everywhere, they got this, they got that, they got this. Was it Gervonta Davis? Tank told us 2 years ago that the reason they held Floyd Mayweather, you can put it back on the screen, captain, in Dubai is because he had owed them money. And they wouldn't release him until he announced the fight to give them their money back. You know they do that over there in Dubai, right? You ain't going nowhere if you owe a debt. He was trapped over there for almost 2 months, according to Gervonta. They shared the same manager, Al Layman, who collected money in cash because Floyd Mayweather gave him a power of attorney to do so. And so when Floyd went down there and sued Showtime, he's suing Showtime, the company, the network, that publicizes these.
While that image helped Floyd Mayweather Jr. build one of the most powerful personal brands in sports, Polly Malignaggi believes it also came with a hidden cost. Because when someone spends years publicly presenting a life of endless wealth and total financial control, even the smallest sign of change immediately grabs attention. According to Polly, that visibility is exactly why so many people are now questioning not only Floyd's current financial position, but also the decisions he made over the years involving spending, investments, and money management behind the scenes. And in his view, the conversation isn't really about whether Floyd is broke or not, it's about perception. Once you build an identity around luxury, success, and limitless money, the public naturally becomes fascinated the moment cracks start appearing in that image. Polly believes that if Floyd had been more private financially, much of today's speculation may never have existed in the first place. But now, every lawsuit, every exhibition fight, every business dispute, and every public appearance gets analyzed under a microscope, fueling even more questions about long-term planning, financial decisions, and whether the lifestyle that once symbolized total success may now be creating pressure behind the scenes.
He gave his money in cash to his manager, Al Layman, and Al Layman spent the money. The Muslim in the bow tie spent the money. You see a man coming and he a Muslim in a bow tie, he's spending your money. Oh, it's gone. It's good, it's gone. You know they send the Nation of Islam down there. You seen the Muhammad Ali story? Don't act like you ain't seen that. Nation of Islam was all up over there. They were all up over Floyd Mayweather's fights and bank accounts and stuff. And so he received it in cash, and Floyd Mayweather is saying he's missing it, and how dare Showtime gives him the money without his permission. He was like, well, wait a minute, but you gave him permission. Yeah, but I didn't tell y'all, I told him. So he's trying to use a way to get in there so he can hold him responsible, because he know he's not going to get the money back from the Nation of Islam at all. That money gone.
And that's where we'll leave the story for today. What started as the image of an untouchable champion surrounded by endless wealth has slowly turned into a storm of lawsuits, financial questions, business disputes, and non-stop speculation surrounding Floyd Mayweather Jr. But in boxing, the truth behind the spotlight is rarely simple, and sometimes the biggest battles happen far away from the ring. So stay tuned, because this story is still unfolding, and the next revelation could change everything once again.
Everybody was seeing how much Floyd was making, right? And Floyd himself was flaunting himself like he was the guy who was making that kind of money. And for all intents and purposes, I assume he was. Everybody assumed he was, and it seemed like he thought he was, because he wasn't complaining. He was showing off, you know? This is why, as I get older, I feel like, and everybody always tells you this when you're young, like, keep your finances private, you know, and this is why I think this is a big reason why. First and foremost, you notice that if you don't keep your finances private, everybody and their mothers ask you for money constantly, and they don't ask you for.
That happens either way.
And they don't ask you. Well, people assume you have money, but if you flaunt it, you definitely they confirm you have money. And they don't ask you for money like you need to buy the Rolex or the Lamborghini. They'll guilt you into it. They need their mother's dying in the hospital. They need to pay for a funeral.
This entire situation has started raising much bigger questions about financial management, contract transparency, and the hidden business side of professional boxing. Because the contrast feels almost unbelievable. For years, Floyd Mayweather Jr. projected an image of absolute financial control. Someone who always stayed ahead, always won, and always had unlimited wealth at his fingertips. But now, with lawsuits, disputes, and growing questions surrounding business relationships, that image suddenly looks far more complicated than people once imagined. And that's why the story has captured so much attention. It's not just about money anymore. It's about how quickly the picture behind the spotlight can change when contracts, partnerships, and long-term planning start falling into uncertainty. Because in boxing, success inside the ring doesn't always guarantee stability outside of it. And sometimes the toughest battles begin only after the cheering stops.
I don't know, honestly. But offhand, you're asking me what my thoughts are offhand. I can never... Listen, when I had a lot of money, I was a lot of times spending more, and I wasn't tracking every single cent, right? I was kind of reckless. I was young. I was, you know, a pro athlete. I went from having nothing to having a bunch of money. So, yeah, I'm not always tracking it as well as I should. But, bro, if I'm missing a lot of difference money, if there's a huge difference, I'm going to track it automatically just because it's so obvious. $340 million, no matter how much money you're making, $340 million does not slip through the cracks, like you said.
Third of $1 billion.
It's not... You know, I don't know. Like, there's guys who have a lot of money, okay? For me, I could go into a jewelry store, spend $20,000 at the time, like nothing. Like, you know what? I didn't plan on going there. I bought a Ferrari. I went with my friend to go check out a Ferrari.
Empire Floyd spent decades building. Because suddenly, the man who once looked financially unstoppable may now be fighting a battle far more complicated than anything he faced inside the ring.